Runup.ca is a Canadian piloting resource. We offer a growing library of aviation and aviation English courses, as well as informational articles and podcasts. Check us out at www.runup.ca.
Good morning, Ryan. Welcome to the Runup.ca podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me here. Appreciate it.
So for everybody who's tuned in listening today, this is Ryan Ferran.
That's correct.
And he's best known as the Missionary bush pilot. And he's pretty much a YouTube rock star. So Ryan's the pilot of a Quest Kodiak flying out of Papua New Guinea. He delivers cargo and people throughout the mountains of PNG. And today we're going to talk to Ryan about his road to PNG and what daily life is like for a pilot in Papua New Guinea. So, Ryan, it's pretty early over there. I think it's about 6:30 in the morning.
That's correct.
You look like you're wide awake. So,
I've got my coffee here today, so we're good to go.
So, Ryan, where did you grow up?
I grew up as a missionary kid. My parents were actually with the same organization that I'm working with now. We lived over here when I was a kid, for 4 years, from like elementary age. So first kind of through fifth grade. And the year back in the States in third grade. And then the rest of the time I grew up in Michigan. So I've been around missions really since I was about 5.
So you went to I guess you went to high school in Michigan then, like in that area? Or?
Yeah. I went to high school in Michigan, and it was really in Michigan, like probably 10th grade, that this is kind of where I decided, maybe not necessarily PNG that I want to come back to, but that I wanted to get into aviation and fly for a living.
Yeah, so it wasn't like you weren't born with it. You weren't, 5 years old dreaming to be a pilot.
I would say it was probably like maybe first grade. We did a couple of flights here in Papua New Guinea. We flew up to Wewak and out to a bush place where my parents were learning the trade language here for their time here. And then we flew out to one other location that we don't fly to anymore just because it's all overgrown. But we went out to a place for Christmas to visit some friends. And I do remember those flights pretty vividly. And I was thinking, man, this would be the coolest job. Even in first grade, I remember playing with those big box fans, and they were my twin engine planes. And, so yeah, even as a kid, the idea of being a pilot sounded pretty cool. But I mean, lots of kids think that. It's just, I decided to keep going with it.
So you got your pilot's license in Michigan at a school in Michigan, and you obviously you're a multi-IFR rated pilot, correct?
Yeah, I got my pilot certificate in Michigan. At that time, just my single engine private pilot. I flew for, I think, 90 hours is all, picking up friends, catching the sunset and stuff. And then I quit flying for 5 or 6 years. And actually wasn't even thinking about going back into it. It was actually, I felt like it was so boring. Because I didn't have any purpose behind it. I was just out flying, spending hundreds of dollars doing nothing, going nowhere with absolutely no purpose. And I was like, man, I don't know if I really want to do this for the rest of my life. It's just the same thing every single day. So I quit flying and started pursuing just going into missions because I knew that that's what I wanted to do. And it wasn't until I had finished basically all of my Bible college and the missionary training that I realized, wow, we were thinking, my wife and I were thinking maybe doing like a tribal church plant here in Papua New Guinea or another country. And we were like, wow, that's just really not where our gifts and abilities are. We're not great at learning languages. And I don't really feel like I really enjoy preaching and coming up with lesson plans. And I like more hands-on things. I like kind of a change of scenery all the time. And that's what really got us back into aviation. So after 5-6 years of not flying, I had to re-buy all of my aviation books, relearn everything, retake a bunch of tests that I had already taken but hadn't finished. So yeah, it was kind of the long route to get to where I am, but I'm glad I came back.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a pretty big break, 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, when you only have 90 hours to begin with, it sure is.
Yeah. I just heard you mention your wife too into aviation. Does she fly as well, or?
No, she has zero interest in aviation whatsoever. She'll fly with me, but usually if she flies with me, she's sleeping. So she's not one of those interesting passengers that really is enthralled by what you're doing. It's kind of like, yep, you're flying a plane. It's like driving a car.
Yeah, I hear you. So, okay, so you got 90 hours or whatever. Even at, you get a commercial pilot's license. In Canada, it's 200 hours before you can be signed off on a commercial pilot's license.
Okay.
And I'm guessing that it's probably similar in the States.
Yeah, 250.
250. So even at 250 hours, I'm sure, you can't just walk into a Kodiak at 250 hours. So what did you do to prepare yourself to get to where you are right now? Like, how did you build the time to get in the Kodiak? Were you flying? I heard you mention 205s in some of your videos down in PNG.
Yeah. So the way basically I came to the field, I think with 700 hours, and I felt like I did it the longest way I possibly could. I basically took out loans. I borrowed money from family, and a church helped support us to get my multi-engine rating. So I just kind of slowly plugged away at it over about 4 years, basically. Mm-hmm. If I would have done it differently, I don't recommend doing it this way, but we were debt free by the time we were finished. But it did take a long time, and I wasn't very marketable because I didn't come from a school where, businesses and stuff are coming to look for pilots. I found that aviation is all who you know. So if you have a buddy who's in aviation who has a job, it doesn't matter your requirements or what you have, you're probably going to likely get a job over somebody else than if you just don't know anybody. But I worked as an aircraft mechanic for 3 years. And during that time, our facility also did engine rebuilds. So all the engine rebuilds needed to be test flown for an hour. So I would go do those. Any airplane, I think the place I worked, from what I was told, was the biggest Cessna, like personal ownership of all Cessnas in America. Like they had the most Cessnas out of anybody in America or the world, I don't know. But we had flight schools all through America, all around the world. And they would come back to our service center and we would work on them. So when they come back, haggard from students' use, they would have me go fly it. And I would basically just write a big squawk sheet of what didn't work. And so I was able to build up some time doing that. And then at the same time, I went and got my CFI, my certified flight instructor. Yeah. And there was one of our flight schools that we actually provided the airplanes to that was just on the same ramp where I worked. So I got a job there. So I was working as a mechanic, but I'd go fly as an instructor for 4 hours in the morning. And then I'd come and I'd work like a 6-hour day. And thankfully, my boss was cool with that. I was like, look, this is what I want to do. I want to fly for missions, but I need to build time. And I was like, I really want to get this job, but I realized I need the insurance. And he was so cool. He was like, you get as much done in 6 hours as most people get done in 12 hours. So go for it. You can go do that. We'll keep your insurance and everything else. So it just worked out really awesome.
So you don't do the maintenance on the planes down there then, do you?
No, I do not have the time to. Like I said, I have my A&P mechanics license in the States, but here I have not transferred it. It's a bigger process here in Papua New Guinea to do that.
Right. Okay.
So I haven't done that. And yeah, we've been so busy that we have a whole maintenance crew that does all of that, thankfully.
Right. And they're pretty good.
Oh yeah. We keep our planes very, very well maintained. So I'm very thankful for that. We're not like a shoddy organization that just kind of goes. I'm really appreciative of how we keep our planes.
That's good to hear, because I'm sure some people think that maybe in some of these, other developing countries and whatnot, that maybe that the aircraft maintenance isn't maybe as good as it should be. So that's really good to hear.
Oh yeah, that's for sure guaranteed in some cases.
So, all right. So I think I heard in one of your videos there that you did all your training for the Kodiak and this bush flying in Arizona, right?
Well, not for the Kodiak, but I did do for just bush flying in general.
Okay.
That's where our mission organization's headquarters is. And it's probably 20 minutes from Mexico. And we've got a couple of dirt airstrips there right on their property. And then a couple others that are just kind of out in the middle of the desert. And it was only 40 hours of training that we did there, but it was just kind of the technique that we use. And it's not anything really necessarily different. It's just, we do everything the same so that all of us pilots are doing the same. We call it a string approach, how we come in, where rather than just kind of coming in on the stall horn, like some people would think, you're coming in just on a really stabilized approach all the way down. And then just the kind of the flare and everything is just basically you're flying it. We say it's just basically VREF, which is typically like your airspeed that you would have basically over the threshold, which is more like bigger airplane kind of stuff. But we fly that speed all the way down. So it's exact same speed with the exact same vertical speed descent rate all the way down. And then and then your touchdown, you're coming down with a decent amount so that your inertia is pushing you down onto the ground, so you're not floating through ground effect and stuff.
Right. Cool. So how long did it take you to learn the G1000? Because I've been trying to learn it, and it's it's pretty complicated. There's a lot there to get through. So did it take you a while? Like, you're obviously very confident with it now, but what was the learning curve like?
I slowly worked into it. So I flew a GA8 Air Van, and it actually didn't have a G1000, but it had, I don't even remember. It had like a little tiny glass screen that would replace a few of the instruments and stuff. So it kind of got me sort of already looking in the same areas for the same types of tape rolls and things like that for air speeds and stuff. So I flew that for a year before I jumped into the Kodiak. So it was like an easier transition because now my eyes were attuned to where I need to be looking. But again, all the buttons were different. So then we did specific Kodiak training in Spokane, Washington at a place called STC. And that was like a 2-week crash course, 1 week on like just the airplane and then 1 week on flying their full motion sim. So that got me introduced to it. But then it was just a matter of just continually playing with it while I was flying, like just go through every single button you can find on all your flights and just figure out what things do. And after, I think I have, I want to say,
don't tell your
hours.
That.
1,400 hours of, figuring it out and doing the exact same thing every day. I push buttons without even really realizing what I'm doing, just because I've done it so many times now.
Yeah. So I guess you have, what, about 1,000 hours when you got in the Kodiak then? Would that be about right?
I had 900 hours. Yep.
But how long have you been in PNG now for then? But about 5 years, is that?
Yeah, we came in October of 2014. And then we spent like a year and a half back in the States in between that time.
I didn't realize that you'd spent time there as a child with your family. So you're obviously very acclimatized and very comfortable with the culture down there, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's different than what is normal to me at home. But definitely. You have to come in with like an open mind to a new culture. I mean, if, as you said earlier, that you've traveled around the world as well, and every culture is going to be different in some aspects. And I think if you look for what's good about that culture, then you can enjoy living in that culture. Like coming from the American culture, if you only lived in America, then you think your culture is the best. But then as you step out, you start realizing, wow, actually this other culture over here has some elements in it that are really, really great that I wish we had in America, and vice versa. So, but yeah, I do enjoy living here, but it has its challenges too.
Like getting stuff shipped there from Amazon. I'm sure that's not easy, is it?
No, that's a sore spot.
I saw in one of your videos there too. You do a little bit of dirt biking, do you? Is that what you do in your free time down there?
Yeah, I used to do a lot more of it. Over the past year with making videos, a lot of my free time that I would have spent riding motorcycles, I'm making videos now. But I still do get out every once in a while. But man, over the years, I had ridden so many miles that most of it was all just kind of by myself. So unless I have somebody to go with, to enjoy it with, I'm just kind of like, man, I've already been on that trail like 20 times. But yeah, I really love dirt biking, and the trails here are just absolutely beautiful. Love it.
Is there like a little bit of an expat like dirt bike crew down there, or?
There used to be many years ago, but not anymore. There is one down in Leh, but that's like a 6-hour drive, and they've come up through here. I think they do motorcycle tours, like New Guinea Dirt or something like that is what they're called. But they've come up and done some tours and connected with me and said, hey, can you give us a tour of the Goroka Valley because you're familiar with it? So I've been able to take 2 of their tours. One bunch of guys from Japan had come through, and then another one, just some other expats had come through, and was able to take them out on a couple-day ride. That was just really fun. Really enjoyed that.
Cool. Well, you should get some video next time you go out there and put it in one of your flying videos.
I know. I've actually thought about it. I have another channel called Moto Monkey that I've shot some of my rides and stuff a few years ago, and really enjoyed it, but it just took so long because I'm out filming by myself, with a drone, setting up tripod stuff. I enjoyed doing it, but it was like, it would take 3 weekends of writing to make one 5-minute video. And it's such a hard niche to get into with YouTube. I'm just like, I don't want to invest my time like that.
Yeah, I hear you. Like, video editing is super time consuming. I get it for sure.
Yeah. Yep.
So where are you right now in PNG? I never even asked you that.
We're outside of Goroka. So basically kind of right in the middle of PNG in the mountains. Yeah, we've got beautiful mountains all around us. And we're about 4,000 feet MSL. So we're not too high, but it's high enough to get out of malaria land and keep it nice and cool.
How do you spell that?
Goroka.
There we go. There we are. All right, I got you there. Yeah, pretty remote.
Yeah, we've got one highway that goes through our area and continues on up another few hours up the way, but there's not too many paved roads in Papua New Guinea.
Yeah, it looks like Goroka is basically an airport town here.
Yeah, I think originally the United States was here during World War II, and they had built that airstrip, and then there's another airstrip that's just outside of town that they use as a secondary. It's just a big field now, but I think that's kind of what originated and how that airstrip started, from what I've been told.
Yeah, the roads around you look like they'd be awesome for dirt biking and motorcycling.
Oh yeah, it really is. This time of year is rainy season though, so we have this red clay that's just like ice. And so this time of year, if it's wet out, I'm not even thinking about going out, because you can be on the ground before you even know what happens to you, because it is just like ice.
Yeah. And I guess sometimes you just get rain for days in the rainy season too, eh?
The way rainy season typically works is, this is a bit odd for this year. It's not that rainy, but typically around 3 or 4 p.m. is when the rains come. So it's usually kind of foggy in the mornings and would clear up usually by 8 or 9 in the morning. And then it's really, really nice till about noon. And then kind of the clouds start building up a little bit by noon to 2. And usually anywhere from 2, 3, or 4 is when rains start. It rains for usually an hour and then it stops, or it'll just kind of build throughout the day and then it'll rain all night.
So we see, like, I don't know, like your videos are anywhere between 15 and 30 minutes, let's say.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, like, take us through like a regular day for you. Like, what, like, are your flights always usually at the same time every day? You usually fly in the mornings. Like, what time do you usually get started in the morning? What time do you usually finish? How does that work?
Yeah. So we head off to work at 6:45 and we load up. We live about 7 miles outside of town on a center. And most of our flights are for our own missionaries that live way out in the bush. So
Right.
we'll pack up our vans we have a store here that they make their orders and they prepare them. And basically in the morning, they have them on pallets ready to go. We load them up into our vans and drive into the airport. And the idea is to be taking off around 8 a.m. And a typical day on average for me is probably around three to maybe 4 hours of flight time, maybe on average. And so we also typically I personally like to get my flying done between 8 and 2, 8 and like 3 at the latest. That way I have time I do all my own billing. We have to get our planes ready for the next day. We have to get our fuel order in, things like that. Get all of our seats, how many seats we want in the airplane for the next day. So once we take off out of here, with the Kodiak, it depends, but just let's see, what was it? 2 days ago, I went out to the islands. So it was a long day that day, but my flight basically left at dawn. So I took off at 6 a.m. and flew out to Hoskins, which is 2 hours, and then flew to Moke and then Lamagai back to Hoskins, which is about an hour round trip, up to Kavieng, which is another hour, and then all the way back to Broke, which is 2.5 hours. So I think it was like 7.6 hours of flight time. And most of that was flying over water. So
Right.
yeah, it was a very long day, but yeah, we do a lot of big, huge rounders, and that's kind of what it is. Where, as 20 years ago, when we flew the Cessna 206, they would fly out to a location and back, and then out to a location and back. But with the Kodiak, because we can, for one, fit a lot more cargo in there, and we can also carry a lot more fuel, it allows us to do these big round robins where we'll go out and land at one place, go to the next place, and then come back to the home base and fill up with fuel or more cargo.
Right. So you're involved in the operations then, like quite a bit too. You don't just get in the plane and fly it and then drop it off and have somebody do all the work. Like you do a lot of like the work around the flying too, I guess. Eh?
Yeah. So when we're at our home base in Goroka, we do have a ground crew that does our fueling. They will get the plane ready as far as, like, if I say I want 4 seats in there, they'll take out the 4 seats or put them in. They do all of our loading in the morning, then tie everything down. But that's only in Goroka. Everywhere else, I do all the loading. I do all the seat removal. And I remember last year we were allocating a family into a new bush location, and they were doing a house build, 3 families doing a house build. And I was the one doing all of the flights for it. So in one day, and that was in Wewak out to Yambaitok, I flew 6,000 pounds worth of cargo, and I loaded and unloaded all that 6,000 pounds. So
yeah, we can tell there.
It was a long day, and yeah, so we move and load and unload and tie down and strap and everything, all of our own cargo. So yeah, if you're thinking that you want to be a bush pilot and just come fly and have fun, yeah, there's a lot more to it than just flying.
Well, that kind of makes it exciting too, to be involved in it like that. I think that would be exciting anyway.
Yeah, well, you feel a lot more comfortable too, because if you're tying down your, 2,000 pound load in the back, and if you were in an accident, you want to make sure that it's tied down properly and not going to come up and kill you just from your load, which has happened in the past here in Papua New Guinea with some other companies and stuff. It was their load that actually killed them, not the actual crash.
You've been making videos. I just checked through your channel there. It looks like your first video was about a year ago. Would that be right?
Yeah. I just looked at it just the other week. It was March 18th, I think. So another 5 days is 1 year.
And you've been flying there for how long again? About since 2014, you said?
Yeah, 2015 is when I started. So about 5 years I've been flying. Yeah.
And then, so why did you decide after 4 years, you wanted to start making videos? Like, what sort of got you into it?
I have always loved making videos, and I actually looked into doing this probably 2 or 3 years ago. And because I thought, this is such a different aspect of aviation that I think would really intrigue a lot of people. For one, just being like the terrain that we have here in Papua New Guinea and just in general has a lot of questions around it. And then just having an inside look at what like a job as a pilot would look like, because people don't really get to sit into a cockpit, especially in this kind of environment. And I saw a bunch of other flight channels that do similar videos on YouTube. And I just saw like how many subscribers they had. And I was thinking, I can't believe that there's this many people that will watch these videos. Because, I mean, if you're doing something, if I'm doing it every day, I don't have any interest in watching somebody else make these videos, because I'm like, I don't want to watch someone else fly. Like, I'm already there doing the same thing. So it's boring to me. So I just thought it's going to be boring. No one's going to watch these. But with COVID, I had a business selling things on Amazon. And because of COVID, it just totally took a dump last year, because it was in the travel niche that I sold. All my products were in the travel niche. So at that time I was like, okay, well, I've got some more time now. I've always wanted to YouTube. And so I'm like, I think I'm just going to give it a go, and I'm going to try it for at least a year and see. I wanted to get 20,000 subscribers. That was my goal. And I had 2,000 at the time that I had built over, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, but they were really more mission oriented videos, not flying videos. Yeah. So within like a month and a half, I had 20,000 subscribers. And so I was like, man, maybe there is a bigger interest in this than I thought. So I guess that just really encouraged me to continue on and to like, I'm going to say, I'm going to make 2 videos a week if I have the available flights to do it. And thankfully I have.
Yeah, well, they're great. Like, you got lots of camera angles in there, and they're really good, man.
Thanks. I watched a bunch of other people's and basically took everything, all the elements that I thought was boring about other videos of similar nature, and said, here's what I would change it to make it more interesting, because my attention span is only about 4 seconds. So everybody else's is probably about 4 seconds. So I'm just going to put a bunch of cameras and then just try to put it together more like a movie would. And hopefully it'll be more interesting if the scene is continually changing.
Well, and the scenery is really good too. So that doesn't hurt at all.
Yeah, it's beautiful here.
All right. So is there anything, maybe you might want to say to somebody who's interested in a job like this, like bush piloting? I know you're with, it's Ethos 360 Aviation, right?
It's Ethnos 360 Aviation.
Ethnos. Yeah. We'll have a link to that at the bottom in the description here of the podcast. But so is there anything you want to say to somebody who like might be interested in doing something like this, or like in bush piloting in general? Is there any advice or just anything you want to say about it?
Yeah. So if I was not with the mission that I'm with the purpose behind of why I'm here in Papua New Guinea, I probably wouldn't be doing this, to be honest. Like, I love what I do, but it's not the flying that keeps me here. It's really the part of being a part of something bigger than myself, bigger than just flying and stuff. So because living in another culture and probably more than likely if you're working as a bush pilot here in Papua New Guinea, just with a company or something like that, it's going to be a lot harder than I think most people would think living in this culture. I think the flying part of it would be great, but I think that it wouldn't be enough to keep them here for very long. They might come for a year or 6 months or something like that, but it's really the missions that I'm here for. And that's why I'm continuing to stay, because I want to be a part of that. And I want to see the gospel go out to these places that have never, ever heard.
This gives you a real sense of purpose, it seems.
Yeah, it really, really does. It gives me an outlet that I can be able to serve others. And that's what I really enjoy. I think so many people in the world are missing or lacking that purpose in life. They might have a great job that makes a ton of money, but they're not getting the fulfillment out of it because they're just like, I'm making a lot of money, but I don't have any purpose behind it. Like, I'm not helping people. I'm not doing this. And people are, I think, searching for that. If you go look on the internet, there's a lot of stuff out there for that, how to find my purpose in life.
Yeah, man, I agree totally. So, like, what's next? Is there a next, or how? Like, you have any plans to leave PNG, or are you going to be there for the foreseeable future, or you got any plans? What's going on?
I start helicopter training next January. So back in the States. So I'll be heading back at the end of this year, and then our mission is changing. We have a Bell Long Ranger right now, and it's a very expensive helicopter to operate, and it's very old. So we're wanting to transition into something newer and something that fits maybe our needs a little bit more. So we're switching over to the Robinson R66s, which is a smaller helicopter, but we're buying 3 brand new ones, all with the G1000 and air conditioning, which I'm really excited about. So we'll be getting those. Our first one we're getting this year in country, later this summer. And so I'll be going back next year, spending the year getting all my training. I've flown a helicopter for about 20 minutes and that was like 6 years ago. But it's something that I've always wanted to do. So when I get back, I'll only have about 300 hours flying a helicopter. But because I already know the environment of PNG, it will be a quicker transition than if I was just to come here with no PNG experience. So we're basically sending all of our Kodiak pilots back to get helicopter training because we don't have any helicopter pilots that are ready to come here. And it's easier for us to do that transition than to train somebody new and have them come over here. Yeah, I'm excited about it. I think it's going to refresh flying here in Papua New Guinea. Not that it's boring or it even becomes monotonous, but I'm always wanting to do something new and fresh. And so I think that will really, I think that'll be a really big boost for me personally to continue flying here because it's something completely new and fresh and exciting.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll pick it up pretty quick. Like helicopters have got to be a lot of hand and feet stuff too. And you've got, a lot of experience with your hands and feet. So you should figure it out pretty quickly, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I'm excited about it.
So Ryan, what's the best way for somebody to support you or support your organization? Is there anything you want to say about that and how people might be able to help you out?
Yeah. Despite many people's belief, we actually live here on like sponsorship from individuals, from churches and things like that. That's how we do our job here is we have a group of people back in the States that support us each month to be able to serve here. We don't get a salary from our organization or anything like that. So if people are interested, they can go check out. We do have a webpage. It's on my YouTube channel. It's just one of the links in the top of the channel page. It goes to our webpage with Ethnos 360 Aviation. It just tells a little bit about our family, what we do, what our mission does, why we're even here. So that's the best way to find out about what we're doing. And then, like you said, we have my YouTube channel, just Missionary Bush Pilot, as well as Instagram. If people are interested in just checking out videos or, just pictures of what we do every day.
And you got a Patreon page. We can find you at patreon.com/missionary bush pilot. That's correct.
Yeah, I post on extra content. I try to keep the channel as much as I can just like flying oriented, but there's been a lot of interest in people who are like, I really want to see what the culture's like. I want to see what it's like on the airstrip. I want to just see more on the ground content, or if they're a flight sim guy and they want to recreate some of these flights that I do, I post all that kind of stuff, just extra stuff that people want to get into. It's all on Patreon.
Cool, man. Well, thanks for getting up so early to do this morning with me. Appreciate that.
Yeah, glad to. Very glad to.
Today's a day off. You flying today? What's going on?
No, today's Saturday, so it's my day off.
Well, enjoy your day, and thanks again for doing this podcast, and look forward to seeing your episodes coming out in the future.
Thanks so much. Appreciate having me on.
Thanks for tuning in to the Runup.ca podcast. If you or anyone you know would like to be on the show and tell us about your aviation story, email us at podcast@runup.ca.